Hello, well in this film I'm going to be making some more leather clicker dies. Now these are metal cutters for cutting out shapes. Think of it like a cookie cutter for cutting out pastry. They're just giant ones and I use them for cutting out things like sides of bags, bases of bags, etc. Anyway, I've been sort of thinking about it because I started off with cookie cutters, clicker cutters that looked a bit like this. Wooden board, the cutting knife wrapped around the edge. I then had a Mark II where I sunk the cutting blade into chunks of plywood. That's been very successful. Anyway, I'm now going to have a Mark III because I've got more ideas as to how to make your own clicker cutters for cutting out leather shapes. Now the idea of these is you have your cutting blade, you mount it in something so it doesn't collapse, and then using a 10, 20, whatever ton press, a hydraulic press, you can cut down into your bits of leather and get very repeatable shapes. And it's great if you're making things like wallets, notebook covers, bags. You can get consistently high quality, nicely cut out shapes lovely and quickly, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to be making some for wallets. Now this is going to be a challenge because wallets, as you know, have tiny bits of leather, tiny parts, lots of tiny parts. So I'm going to make some of these cutters using a bit of wood actually I got off of a skip. So that's my plank. It's a lovely solid bit of maple actually, lovely and hard and ideal for acting as the frame. What I'm going to do then is cut out the shapes for the wallet on my bandsaw. I'm going to then bend the metal cutter around them using a special bending jig. Then I'll fix it with some nails or screws or something, and hopefully I'm just going to rely on the outside being sort of nailing the cutter. That will do the job. And I've got a 15-ton press. I'm going to pop it in, and if it all works I'll have some wallet shapes and it'll be a means of cutting them out quickly and accurately. I'm back in the leather shed now. I've cleaned up all my wooden outlines. So what I want to do next is actually get some steel rule die, and this is steel rule die, so it's a cutting edge, and I want to bend it around these formers. Now the steel rule die, you can buy it in rolls or in metre lengths. You have to buy quite a lot at a time. And you can get it in the UK from Partwell.com, so that's Partwell, Partwell Group, and they sell it. Dare say there are other suppliers, but that's the one I found. I know people will ask me, so I thought I'd tell you. Yeah, so it's this steel rule die. It's basically got a hardened cutting edge, so it's quite sharp there, but it's softer in the centre. So it makes it actually quite good. It's fairly bendable, but you do need the right kit for bending. Now I've already popped a film up where I'm bending this to make one of the cutters, and I'm using a ring bender, a very simple ring bender. I have now got something a bit bigger, and I'll show you that next. It's a bending jig. It's a manual bending jig for steel rule die, and it's a very heavy bit of equipment, but it is quite nice. It's all manual. So this is my steel rule bending machine. It has a long handle which then moves these pieces here. Bring the camera down in a bit more. Hope you can see that moving. I'll pop a bit of rule in. This is going to get harder with a camera in one hand, working a lever with the other. So that's the steel rule. That's the rule there going in between the different formers. And then what happens is as you press on the lever, that will bend. So what I'm doing there is I'm bending like a right angle. And there you have it. and you get different shapes. So there's a box here of different curves and different like triangles, and you can put those in here. So these slot in and out in there like that. So that's the bending jig. And then the other thing I've got is a tool which cuts the rule. So you put your scrap of rule in there, and that little cutting nib comes down, comes in, and it cuts it. So you can then cut your steel rule to length, and you obviously get a nice right angle corner. Now, I have already just been experimenting with the first cutter, and this is actually my first attempt at doing something a bit more fiddly, but you'll see here that I've managed to wrap the steel around the wooden block, and what I've done is I have put holes into the soft middle of the steel using a Whitworth punch. So this is the Whitworth punch, and it's got a little very fine sort of like hole cutting head there. You squeeze it together like a pair of pliers and it punches a hole. Think of it like a paper punch. Well, it's ideal for making the holes to get the nails in around the wooden block to hold the steel rule die. Now this one, my really one error was just that I didn't get the edges meeting there, so I should have cut it a bit more closely and carefully. That's all learning. This is all learning for me at the moment, but otherwise that actually is a very respectable cutter, and I have just tried it out. It does work. I will show you it in operation in a minute, but you know, it can cut out the shapes perfectly well. I'm just doing it on bits of scrap just to see what sorts of things happen, so I'm able to, you know, replicate the same shape very accurately like that. So yeah, basically this is a huge improvement on what I've been doing. The beauty obviously of it is it gives me flexibility. I can try a design, make up some bits. If they don't seem quite the right width, height or whatever, I can tweak it myself, and I can get it that way. I can get it absolutely perfect and get the actual, you know, best product, best size, everything that I like about it, tweak it to perfection, which is rather nice. I'll show you a little bit of the actual cutting next. So what I've done, I've put a bit of sacrificial leather on the cutting board there. I'll put my cutter there, a metal block to spread the load, and then I'll give this a couple of pumps. There we are, that's more than a couple, but and like that I've got my bit of stuff cut out. So I've got this annoying gap, but apart from that I have a perfectly cut out shape for making a divider in a wallet. So it certainly works, and this is showing no signs of giving up or moving or giving way, so I'm quite confident this is worth carrying on with and making a whole set, which is what I'll be doing next. I'll just show you how the Whitworth punch works. You do need to wear proper eye protection when you're using this sort of kit. So this is what you do. You have like an edge guide on the Whitworth punch. You put your piece of metal in, and then you just press it together, and out comes a little punch. It needs a fair bit of force. Then you get a nice little hole. Don't know if you'll see that on camera, but you get a nice little hole punched through for the nail, and it is as easy as that. It's a lot easier when you do it on your bench, actually. I mean, you're not having to film and do it holding things, but that's how the hole making works around the edge. The die bending jig, I'll just move around to that, give you another peep at that. So, as I say, you can load in different cutters, sorry, different formers. So I'll show you a curved one. Say slot in, and if I take a scrap off the end here, what you can do is then bend a bit of metal. It's a bit hard with the camera in a way, but I want to give you the idea. And you can do like bits of bending, so you can just take it and make a curve or make a shape or make a circle. The good thing about this kind of bender is you've got clearance underneath these arms, so you can actually go around and you can make any sort of shape you want to, and you get a nice perfect curve bend or whatever. So that's how that works. I thought it would be really difficult to make that cutter. I really thought to, you know, get the metal bent around here would be nigh on impossible for me, but actually just taking my time, eyeing it up each time, it was okay. You could obviously send off files, computer files, to a die maker to get these dies made, and to be frank, that is probably the more sensible thing to do in many ways. I, being me, I suppose, just wanted to take the hard route and try and learn how to do them myself. And obviously the beauty, if you can do them yourself, is you can vary the dies, you can make all sorts of different dies, and if you know, as I say, want to tweak things, you can tweak them. So you take your choice, I guess. In retrospect, would I do it the same way as I've been going? I'm not certain. I think it was easier just to send a file off, do a die maker, but there you are. There are advantages learning the hard way. Why do I always take the hard way in life? I don't know. Anyway, hope you found some of that useful, and thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next film. Bye bye.